Welcome back to another episode of the Cycle Podcast, the show where we cover 4 trending MLB topics in 20 minutes or less. Joining me as always, Josh, a.k.a. Kablumski. Welcome in. I know you're sort of watching the NFL draft as we record this. All I really care about is seeing where the Chiefs go, and we drafted the end of the round, so I'm not paying too much attention. How was your camping trip, by the way? We missed last week. I was sick. You were out. You were away. How did that go?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me back. I thought I was going to lose my job after last week. Unfortunately, you know, the family calls and we do a family Easter trip every Easter. So we had to do that. It was fun, great, good time with the family. Happy to be back. Happy to be talking about some sports. Like you mentioned, I got the draft on today, so I'm doing double duty with that. Just so you know, there's no Patrick Mahomes in this draft this year. Just throwing that out there, just in case if you were looking for something like that. But no, man, I'm happy to be back. Happy to talk ball. My high school season's wrapping up, so I'm gonna have a lot more time talking about this and getting more informed about this. So thanks for having me back, brother. Appreciate it.
Of course. All right, man. Always happy to have you. Yeah, if you guys weren't watching, Cam Ward went number 1 overall. I'm just not thrilled with the talent in this draft, so I don't see too much of a reason to lock in on it. When football season rolls around, I'll start paying attention again.
Right.
With that, let's get back into baseball. We've got some great topics to cover today. Without further ado, let's get into it. Our first topic today is going to be something that we sort of missed when we skipped an episode last week. Aaron Judge was announced as the captain of the World Baseball Classic for the USA in 2026. The World Baseball Classic is far and away my favorite event in like the whole world. I start paying attention to it almost immediately. The first news that comes out, I lock in. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the guys we really, really want to see on this roster. A few names off the top of my head. I would love to see Jackson Merrill on this team in the outfield. I, of course, would love to see Bobby Witt Jr. and Gunnar Henderson in the infield. And then, of course, some guys like Paul Skeens, Tarek Skubal, the young guns, the great arms that we have could represent the U.S. Any names off the top of your head that you're thinking? Oh, Garrett Crochet was another one. I'm sort of interested in maybe getting on that team. Where are you? Any names I miss that you'd really like to see?
Well, if we're talking about the USA team, which I'm sure that's what you're talking about. Yeah, Adeline Rushman, I would like to see him behind the plate. Also, this Cal, Raleigh, make the roster as well. I think that he's making a tremendous push for his name being on the roster. I just, you know, as a catcher, like I said, I'm a little bit biased of the position. And those two names kind of jump out to me as far as Americans come to mind. But those two names can be a big factor in that roster once it's announced.
Yeah, and we were talking off the podcast, the second base position is sort of a weak spot for the USA. Names like Brandon Lau are somewhat the elite U.S. Second baseman, Tyler Fitzgerald. But
God, I want to vomit when you said that. Elite second baseman with Brandon Lau in the same sentence. Stop
it. Top 10s, American-born second baseman. There's not a lot. So the fix would be moving Mookie Betts over there. And then at first base, sort of the aging position for the USA, Freddie Freeman and Bryce Harper are the big names. Maybe a guy like Nick Kurtz that we're going to talk about later on the show. But we got to win it this year. The USA, the country that invented baseball, has only won the World Baseball Classic one time. Japan with 3 wins. The Dominican Republic has taken 1. USA's got to get another win under our belt, especially with Japan threatening for the second time in World Baseball Classic history to go back-to-back. So they're the only team to go back-to-back. They could do it twice. And that team is going to be loaded. All these guys, Shota Imanaga, Shohei Ohtani, Lars Nootbaar, all obviously the names to watch, Roki Sasaki. But there's so many elite players in Japan that haven't come over yet. Munetaka Murakami, the Japanese Babe Ruth, they call him, supposedly a better power hitter than Shohei Ohtani is. So we've really, really, really got to put the best team on the field. And looking at the pool, we have a tough run. We start out in the same pool as Cuba. Assuming we win Pool A.
No.
Sorry, my mistake. Assuming we win Pool B, and what I meant to say is Cuba is our likely opponent in the quarterfinals. That is a tough quarterfinal game. Another loaded team. On the other side of the bracket, of course, you have Japan, but then Venezuela and the Dominican Republic over there. And that Dominican Republic roster is terrifying. I would say it's scarier than the potential Japanese roster. I think it's better than our roster. It's better than the Cuban roster. And Dominican Republic should probably be the favorite early on. Would you agree there?
100%, hands down.
Yeah, it's terrifying. And the depth that they have on that roster, I guess you could say their weakness might be pitching with guys like Luis Castillo, Sandy Alcantara being the big names, but it's that offense with Fernando Tatis, Jose Ramirez, Manny Machado. They are as deep can be. But if the USA can put a good roster together, I think we can give them a run, especially with guys like Mason Miller, young guys coming out of our bullpen this year that maybe we were a little light on last round. So with the time left, who's your pick for the World Baseball Classic Finals, and who do you got winning it? I have the Dominican Republic over the USA.
Yeah, this is tough because obviously being a Puerto Rican, I want to root for my Puerto Rican team, which I will. I mean, hands down, I'm going to ride or die for my island. But at the same time, it's intriguing to see how the world has caught up to the Americans in the sport that the Americans have claimed, right? Where it's not just the Caribbeans or the Latinos taking over the league. You're always talking about the Japanese as well. So I just love the fact that it's a world-based tournament, really brings out the best of the best in the world. This is like you mentioned, hands down one of the biggest. Love this event. Look forward to it every single time. I root for my Puerto Rican team every single time. We've always put a good product out. We're always very, very sneaky. We have a very good chemistry in our team that goes a long way. We're not really good on paper, so to speak, when you stack up lineups with the USA and the Japanese and the Dominicans of the world, but we always find a way to somehow sneak in somehow. So, we always find a way. But yes, it's going to be tough to beat the USA on that side of the bracket. And then on the other side of the bracket, the Dominican Republic, if they don't win this year, it's going to be a tough pill to swallow as a country and as a culture for this baseball culture, because they keep on producing players year in, year out. They always compete year in, year out, but they can never get over the bump. So yes, I feel like this year is their year, unfortunately. But speaking realistically, Dominicans are going to be tough to beat.
Absolutely. I agree. All right, with that, let's keep rolling along. We went a little over our time there, so we'll try to condense one of our next ones. But next up, we're going to be talking who's hot. All right, so let's get into who's hot. And I think this is probably our most obvious who's hot of the year. Pete Crow Armstrong is, I don't know if you say white hot or if there's a term like a level above that, like center of the sun, molten lava hot. In his last 10 games, he is hitting .430 with 18 hits, 5 home runs, 12 RBIs, 11 runs scored, 10 games. That is insane. He is, and a guy who at the beginning of the year you're talking, can Pete Crow Armstrong be a contributor? So far this season, he has been the contributor. On a team that has another MVP candidate in Kyle Tucker. And the Cubs, I was a non-believer for so long. And then I saw them play the series against the Dodgers, not only hold their own, but beat the Dodgers. They have the largest run differential in the league right now, 43 runs in the positive. They are in first place in their division, despite what I would say is not exactly a strong pitching staff. Obviously, outside of Imanaga, you've got Ben Brown, who isn't exactly lighting the world on fire. You have Justin Steele, who is banged up right now. You have, who else is on? I can't even think who else is on that pitching staff right now. Out of the bullpen, it's really Ryan Presley, guy that they brought in as their closer. But what they have is just a balanced roster. You've got guys like Seiya Suzuki and Nico Horner, who are great table setters. You have Ian Happ, an outstandingly competent leadoff man, hitting in front of PCA and Kyle Tucker. So in that division where Milwaukee is absolutely faltering, the Cardinals started off somewhat hot. Since then, have been well below 500. The Pirates, I mean, playing better than I expected. I think they're at 10 wins right now. And then the Reds at something like 12 and 14. So a middling division across the board absolutely is the Cubs for the taking, and I expect them to win that division. But we're talking Pete Crow Armstrong right now. Maybe the toolsiest guy in the league when it comes to a combination of power, bat to ball skills, speed. He is a plus defender in the outfield. Have you had a chance to watch a lot of him recently?
Oh yeah, I used to watch him too coming up in the system. First of all, I just want to throw you your flowers because you hit everything on the head on that. PCA is the hottest guy in sports, not by looks, because we all know that goes to our boy Bobby Witt.
Absolutely.
But just so if we're talking the hottest player, right, we got to mention him. But we just got to talk about what he means to the team itself, because the whole team is hot, right? Mm-hmm. We mentioned it before in previous podcasts where we talked about that league's up or that division's up for the taking. I think one of us even mentioned that the Cubs have the tools to maybe sneak by. But the two words that you mentioned that when you were going on your take there was balanced. Number one was balanced, and then number two was a two-word, but one person. Ian Happ. Ian Happ, to me, is a lost and forgotten player in this lineup. I get it, PCA is the man right now, but Kyle Tucker is going to be the man to take you on the ride, right? But Ian Happ is what makes this is the ignition for this motor to get going, right? Mm-hmm. And he is doing his role tremendously. Like you said, on paper, pitching staff wise, they're not going to blow you away. They have nothing to scare you. They're not going to overwhelm you with stuff like that. But like you mentioned before, they are balanced. When times are needed for the offense to step up and pick up the pitching, they pick it up, and vice versa. So yes, it's still early in the season, but it's a very, very good sign for the Cubs for the future of this year. I do want to mention one other thing. You got to remember that Tito Francona for the Cincinnati Reds, he will always have his team ready to play towards the back end of the season. So as the Cubs, they need to really make sure that this kind of like stretches along and kind of, is a consistent factor, because the Reds are exactly, because the Reds are going to come knocking on the door sooner rather than later. And like you mentioned, once the Pittsburgh Pirates start rolling and their pitching staff starts rolling, they're going to be a team to contend with as well. But as of right now, if they can stack up their wins and continue to play good ball, balanced ball, they got a tough road for the rest of the division for them.
Absolutely. I would probably pick them right now to win that division. Milwaukee, I assume at some point is going to start playing a little bit better and make things tough, but the Cubs might just stay hot through the All-Star break and put that division away pretty early on. And that's sort of what I expect to happen at this point. And I'm going to go on paper that I'm officially a Cubs believer after watching some of their play against the Dodgers. So I'm a Cubs believer. I think I said in the past podcast I wasn't ready to buy into them yet, but I think I bought a little stock. Put a little pocket change, bought some Cubs stock. So we'll see if that pays off in the long run.
There you go.
And with that, we've got more topics to cover. Let's keep rolling. Our third topic is going to be talking the first huge call-up of the season and the first big name from the 2024 draft class to come up, which is Oakland first baseman Nick Kurtz, who was the 4th overall pick in last year's draft. Big body, power first baseman. And the Athletics roster just keeps getting younger. They have so much talent, 24 and under, that even some of the talent that's in like the 27, 28-year-old range sort of gets forgotten, guys like Shea Langoliers. But after only 32 minor league games, I believe it was, they're calling this kid up. They believe he is fully ready to be a part of this team and take the reins at first base. If you saw in his first game, he had his first MLB hit, his first RBI with his family in attendance. And now looking at that Athletics roster, I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs this year. I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs next year. but you can start to see it coming together. You've got Jacob Wilson, Lawrence Butler, now Nick Kurtz, all these young names. Max Muncy, not Dodgers Max Muncy, Athletics Max Muncy, recently sent down just to get some more everyday at-bats in AAA. And then you have Zach Geloff, who's coming back from an injury, wasn't a great performer last year. But now with him coming back, I believe he's going to slide into that roster. And then, of course, the big name has been Tyler Soderstrom. So despite having a subpar pitching staff over there with Luis Severino and Jeffrey Springs, another team where that staff doesn't jump out at you, I think in coming years they can put enough runs on the board to win some games. Of course, you've got some veterans, too, that they signed long-term. Brent Rooker, they gave an extension to. They've already locked up Lawrence Butler. So I think in the coming months, we may see them trying to lock up more of these guys, especially Soderstrom. Realistically, how far out do you think this team is?
Not that far. This team is doing very, very similar tactics as the Baltimore Orioles a few years back. Yeah. If you remember how they drafted very early, they drafted their needs early, knowing that their needs are going to be fulfilled ASAP. It's not, hey, take a couple years in our system and come up when you're ready. It's no, we're going to draft you up. You take a couple swings in the minor leagues, but have your phone on standby because we're going to be calling you up soon. And I respect that because the organization needs something to cheer for over there, right? We just got to say that. They just haven't had a good product on the field as of late. So I am rooting for them, man. I'm rooting for them as an organization. And I feel by the time that they do make it to Las Vegas, not only, if they make it to Las Vegas, not only will they be, borderline a playoff team, but I would not be surprised if they punched their ticket early. Just because of that, like what you mentioned, they're having a lot of their foundational pieces come up and start playing together. And John, that makes a big difference when you have, veteran guys, quote unquote, veteran guys who are still 25, 26, who are showing your 22-year-olds coming up, hey, this is the ropes. And I got you because I can still kind of relate to you. It's not a big difference it is a big difference when you have your 36-year-old veteran trying to tell your 22-year-old veteran or a rookie, the ropes. It's a little bit different because the camaraderie isn't there. So I like what they're doing there. I like how they're building this program from the bottom up. They're using the farm system, using them quick. And if they're ready, they're ready. They're not going to sugarcoat anything. If you're ready, you're coming up and we're going to put you in the fire ASAP. So I'm all for it. Like you mentioned, they're not a playoff team as of now, but they are definitely on the trajectory to being a team to be reckoned with for years to come.
Sort of like the Royals in the early 2010s. They brought up Moustakas and Hosmer together. They had brought up Alex Gordon right before that group came up. Correct. And then Salvador Perez came up in 2013-14. So they kind of brought that group together. They got the guys like Hosmer, Moustakas, Gordon, some major league experience. And then they started bringing everybody else up when it was time to have success. So, I'm not predicting them to make the playoffs this year or next year. But like you said, I think we're on the right track. Not we, but I think they're on the right track. By the time they get to their new home, they should have a team that attracts some fans in a new spot, which is going to be sort of a challenge for them moving over to Vegas or Sacramento or wherever it is they end up. Talks of Nashville as well, by the way. So keep an eye on that.
Huge Butler fan, by the way. Huge Butler fan I am.
Swag.
Awesome.
That's incredible amounts of swag.
Yep.
All right, guys. With that, we have one more topic to cover, so stay tuned. We're going to roll right into that. Our last topic today is going to be a first. We waited a little while into the season before we talk division leaders because you don't want to jump the gun too early. But after most teams have played 25 games, I think it's about time to start talking about where some of these divisions stand. Maybe make a few predictions, talk surprises. So I'm going to start in the American League. In the Central, unfortunately, Detroit, a team that I thought may have been a little overhyped, appears to not be overhyped at all. They're at 15-10, a half a game ahead of Cleveland, 3.5 games ahead of Kansas City. Of course, Minnesota and Chicago holding down the pits of the AL Central, looking absolutely awful, by the way. In the East, unfortunately, the Yankees at 15-10, Boston on their heels, 2 games back at 14-13. The Toronto Blue Jays making a little bit of a push here as of late. Despite a 5-game losing streak, they are still holding up. Sorry, I shouldn't say a little bit of a push. What I meant to say was hanging in the middle there at 12-13. Baltimore, surprisingly, at 10-14. That is shocking to me. And then your Rays at 10-14. Just based on, by the way, the Rays, watching them, they don't look like a 10-14 team, but that division is just so difficult right now. In the AL West, Texas at 14-10, not a team I am really high on. A negative 14 run differential. Their expected win-loss right now is 10-14. So they are playing above, or their record is playing higher than the quality of the product on the field. Nipping at their heels, a half game back is Seattle, and then a hot Houston Astros, only a game back. The Angels at 11-12, 2.5 games back. And then the Athletics, 6-4 in their last 10. We just talked about them, only 3 games out. And their issue is they're giving up so many runs. They have scored 105 runs, almost 30 more runs than the Rangers have scored, despite a subpar record. Moving over to the National League, what you could call the best team in baseball right now, the Mets in the AL East at 18-7, 5 games up on the Phillies in second, 6.5 games up on the Marlins in third, 7 games up on Washington, 7.5 games up on last place Atlanta. Somewhat of a surprise. Moving over to the Central, we've got the Cubs at 16-10, 3 games up on the 13-13 Brewers. The Reds in third place at 12-13, Pittsburgh at 10-15, the Cardinals at 10-15, and then over to one of the most interesting divisions, San Diego leading the NL West at 17-8, San Francisco hanging in at 17-9, half a game back. The Dodgers, surprisingly, third place in their division at 16-9, and then you have Arizona at 14-10. So 3 teams over 500. And then, of course, in the basement, the Colorado Rockies at 4-20, coming off a sweep, or a being swept by my Royals. Just got thumped in a doubleheader today by the Royals. So all those teams we just mentioned, 1:25 left in the show. Who is your biggest surprise as far as winning, and your biggest surprise as far as losing?
Yeah. So first and foremost, good job with all that. The Padres to me stands out. And that division is going to be tough to begin with. But they are doing, excuse me, what they need to do. But
best
the team
bullpen in baseball, by the way, right now.
With that, yes. And I was just about to say that. So thank you for saying that. Sorry. No, you're good. You're good. Great minds think alike. But that is the key factor that we have to realize that. So can that last you the whole 162? Because if that lasts you the 162, now you're talking about a whole different ball game, because now your lineup is going to follow your pitching staff. Your pitching staff is the only thing that can take you further into October. So if they can get that in a consistent manner, they should be all right. A team to watch out for too, or a team that is also surprising, also in that division, is the Giants. Team that we were not talking about much in the offseason, not talking much at the beginning of the season, and they just find a way to always just stick around and just be in the mix somehow. You know what I mean? So I find that division very, very intriguing. And then also my division, the AL East, to me, those 2 divisions to me is very intriguing. But I do want to mention one team that you mentioned that is a runaway right now in their division, which was my World Series prediction, is the New York Mets. And I just want to tell you, I told you so as of now.
Yeah, I gotta sort of just take that one on the chin, because I was not a believer. I'm still not, by the way. The Mets have statistically one of the best bullpens in baseball, and that is not going to hold. Their offense, outstanding. They're a great offensive team. Second, I believe, in run differential, which is for some reason, a stat I love looking at. Their expected win-loss is just one game lower than their actual win-loss, and they are 12-1 at home, 4-2 against teams over 500. On the road, 6-6. If you can win the majority of your home games and play 500 ball on the road, you're a team that's gonna go a long way. However, throughout the season, just keep an eye on that Mets pitching staff because I do not think it's going to hold up. With the last few seconds, I think my biggest surprise as far as bad has to be the Minnesota Twins. Where are they?
Oh, yeah.
9-16, a team that a lot of people were picking to win the AL Central. I didn't pick them to win the AL Central. I had them 2-3 in maybe a wild card position. Remember, they had that absolute meltdown at the end of last season where they lost their playoff positioning, missed the postseason altogether, and that cold streak has carried into this year. You've also got an extremely injury-prone team with guys like Royce Lewis, Byron Buxton on that squad. I think things could go from bad to worse for Minnesota very quickly, so that's another thing to keep an eye on. But with that, we are out of time. We went over on quite a few segments. So I think we wrap this one up here real quick. Go back, enjoy recapping that draft. I'm sorry we pulled you away from that. I want to see if I can catch my Chiefs pick. As always, thank you for watching. Make sure to like, leave us a comment, subscribe. Check out Spring Hill Sports Cards on TikTok. I'm also posting some more shorts here if you're interested in sports card content. And as always, check out all of the Chaotically Intolerant podcasts, the blogs, for our good friend and editor, Alex. Josh, you got anything else?
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me again. Thanks for tuning in to everybody. Also, if you can, just when you like and subscribe to our show, man, throw some topics down there. We would like to get some fan interaction and let us know what we can talk about more often and than not. So thanks for the support. Thanks for everything. And again, I'll see you guys next week.
Enjoy the games, guys. We'll see you.